had so many volunteers that are interested in becoming involved in the Invictus Games that we actually had to cap the number of applications submitted at 6,000, but there were many, many more than that. We are so pleased that we've got like 1,500 volunteers, and you are chosen to be part of these games. Is that exciting or what? Yeah. Yeah.
How's everybody doing? All right, excited to be here? Excellent. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Diana. Listen, I can't tell you how excited I am to finally be here at one of the volunteer training summits. We've been obviously very busy, not just here in the city, but across the country. We have been activating. We have been talking to Canadians. We've been lighting up the country, getting prepared for what's going to happen next month. But you guys have been selected among thousands and thousands of people who applied, not just here in Canada, but around the world for these unbelievable spots, these incredible opportunities to be part of delivering these games. And it's because of your enthusiasm, your energy, your ideas, and your skills that you were selected. So how about a big hand for yourselves? It's great to have people not just from across Toronto, but around the GTA who will be involved in these games. And we certainly have people from across Canada as well as outside the country who are also making their way up to be a part of this unbelievable volunteer workforce that we've assembled. So on behalf of the organizing committee, thank you so much for your time and effort. It was Prince Harry who founded these games less than 3 years ago. Now, how many people here know that Prince Harry actually served for the British Armed Forces? All right, that's good. Okay. He actually served for more than a decade. He was a helicopter pilot, did multiple tours in Afghanistan, and he, as well as anyone, knows the unique challenges that military families face, and he has certainly seen firsthand the horror of war and what that can do to a person's body and or their mind. And it was actually after his retirement from the British Armed Forces that he was invited to something called the Warrior Games, which have been happening for about 5 to 7 years in the United States for about 400 or 500 of their ill and injured service members, veterans, as well as family and friends who are there to cheer them on. Very similar to what we're doing here. And it was in 2013 when Prince Harry was at the Warrior Games that he learned really for the first time the impact that adaptive sport can have, both on the competitor as well as the family and friends. And so after that experience, he went back to London, pulled his team together and said, we need to do something just like they're doing in the United States for their ill and injured. But instead of just doing it for our British Armed Forces, why don't we get others to come and bring their ill and injured to London to compete in an international adaptive sport competition? So the Italians, the French, the Canadians, the Aussies, the Afghan, and other nations came to London in 2014 to compete in what was then the first ever Invictus Games. Why did we decide to go out and secure these games? Why would volunteers like you sign up and want to help us deliver these games? Why would corporate Canada, government, and others support these games so that we could deliver them to the nation? And why would anyone care to buy a ticket and show up at the games or the ceremonies? And when we went through that exercise, we tried to answer that question in 7 words or less. Now, there's a lot more to it than just those words, but where we ended up landing was transforming empathy into empowerment. And normally when we're doing these presentations and we share those words, everyone has the same reaction. Wow, that sounds great. But what does it mean in the context of the Invictus Games? And normally what I would have is on the screen is a photo of one of the bridges along the Highway of Heroes that would have been lined by EMS and the public. And I think when we describe these games and we talk about transforming empathy into empowerment, that is probably the best photo or picture to describe what we're attempting to do through these games. And 158 times, Canadians came out of their homes, their places of work, they left their schools, their churches, their mosques, and they lined those bridges. And those bridges weren't brought to you by Canadian Tire or Tim Hortons. This was an organic movement, the like of which the nation has rarely ever seen. And if you had taken an exit interview and you had asked those men and women, why are you here? They would have used words similar to what you would have used to describe why you volunteer: honor, service, patriotism. But really what they're saying is that they have empathy, that they're trying to understand what it would be like to be part of a military family who may have just lost a son or a daughter, a husband or a wife or an aunt or an uncle. And these games give us the opportunity, in a way that we have never done before as a nation, to tap in to that latent empathy. We don't have to create demand for these games. It's evident every day as we get closer that Canadians want to be a part of these games. We also know that that empathy that Canadians have stretches much longer than just the Highway of Heroes. It stretches to every corner of this country. And if we're successful, if we deliver the kind of games that we know we can, and the games that we have been planning for, we're going to enable Canadians an opportunity to turn that empathy into meaningful action. This is the moment we have, like no other in this country's history, to show our support for our military families. So remember, you won't see it as a tagline, but transforming empathy into empowerment is really at the core and the essence of what these games are all about and why they're so important for us and for this nation.
I just want to say thank you. On behalf of my commander, General Steve Cadden, the Chief of Defense Staff, General John Vance, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are volunteering to serve those who volunteered to serve. And that's a really powerful message. These games are training the power of sport in recovery. Now, do not get me wrong. These games are going to be competitive. Every member of the forces has competition built in their DNA. Every one of those competitors is going to be busting their ass to do their personal best. And it will be exciting. It will be powerful. But what's different is, for some nations like Canada, we didn't pick the competitors based on those who we thought were going to be the most likely to medal. We picked competitors based on those who we thought were going to get the best benefit from being in that competition. And you are going to see events, unlike Pan Am, where you have a sprint and everybody is finishing within a couple seconds. You're going to see people who are blasting it down the track. And you're going to see other people who are pushing it at their best, but they're not in that same category. But they deserve to be there because they are in the spotlight showing that they are conquering what has broken them, and they are unconquerable. And it's not just the physically injured. We also have a number of competitors who have been mentally injured. And that's what the power of these games are, is we're not just looking at one aspect of injury. I'll keep saying thank you, because games like this, these opportunities for these competitors to get that opportunity to grow, to recover, to see the benefit of the power of sport, comes because of you volunteering and giving us that opportunity for my soldiers, our sailors, our air service personnel, people from the other countries, to do the exact same thing. So once again, on behalf of all of us, to all of you, thank you so much.
On behalf of myself, the coaches, and the other competitors on Team Canada, I would like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy day and your lives, frankly, to help us stage this thing. Without your participation, without your contributions, we couldn't do what we're going to be able to do in the games at the end of September. So thank you all so very much. A heartfelt thank you. This was something that fed my soul. This was something that gave me a sense of accomplishment. This was something that was hard to do and that I could challenge myself with. When I could push myself and feel the pain when I was doing it and feel the ache the days afterwards, I was rebuilding my self-image. I was rebuilding my psyche, my mental image of myself. It's very easy for someone who's never had a spinal cord injury to tell you all the things that you need to know, but they're telling you from a theoretical or a intellectual sort of position. Someone who has a spinal cord injury is telling you their life experience. They can answer the questions that you are afraid to ask of someone, of a nurse or of a physiotherapist. So I think that was something that I missed, something that I found in the peers at the track that I went to, and something that I'm finding with the peers on the Canadian team for the Invictus Games. And I've managed to sort of turn the direction of my life around a little bit again and have taken the weight off. So I'm feeling much better about myself this year than I was this time last year. I'm a lot stronger, I'm a lot healthier. I can remember I guess the advantages of losing weight and getting my power to weight ratio to move in the right direction. That is, I guess, the way of saying that I still feel that exercise and sport is hugely important, even after I got past that initial kind of problem with my life. I found myself back in a position where I needed this device again. I needed to get back on the road and get back and challenge myself again and get back into shape. And this opportunity, these games have given that to me. I've also had the privilege of meeting 80-odd competitors and coaches and staff that I will take some of the best friends that I'm going to have, I feel, out of that group and go forward with those people for the rest of my life. It's a huge privilege to be able to represent Canada. And I am really, really, really looking forward to these games. It's going to be amazing. Thanks, guys.
So let's look at, why are these games unique? You probably have a pretty good idea of some of the things, but let's look at that in a little more detail. Focus on recovery. Remember, we were talking this morning that the games aren't necessarily just who does the best, right? Who gets the medal. It's who's actually going to benefit from it. Remember David DeVries was talking about that and how the team was selected? It was the people that were going to benefit the most from the games, right? And through the recovery and rehabilitation process. So the focus of the games is on the recovery. I've had the pleasure actually of hearing 3 different Team Canada representatives. And each time I hear them, I hear a different piece of it. And it's really interesting to hear how their stories kind of start off on one place, and through the power of sport, how their lives have changed, and how sport is an equalizer. And it's interesting that I was hearing something recently on the news, and they were talking about how sport in other walks of life, people that are perhaps like troubled youth and things of that nature, how sport really makes a difference. So it's extremely powerful. So the focus of these games is on the recovery. The competitors, as David mentioned too, they're athletes, and man, they're going to be working hard. But at the end of the day, they're all competing together. They're competing against each other to collectively win, right? And why? Because it's recovery for all of them. I haven't had the privilege of attending any of the Invictus Games in the past, but from the stories that I've heard and had the privilege of being told, there was one in particular that stood out for me. It was 5 female competitors actually were running a race. 4 of them had crossed the finish line, and there was one competitor who was a little bit slower in the process, and she was just plugging away as she was heading towards that line. The 4 that had crossed the line already all turned around and were cheering her on. What does that have to say, right? They're cheering each other across that finish line. So that's really important. The focus is on the competitors and how sport really does make a difference for them. The other thing too is many of the competitors are doing multiple sports. So we have designed the schedule to allow them the opportunity to participate in the various sports so that they don't overlap. So that's why I know scheduling, I think, went through 7 or 8 different variations of the schedule to make sure that people were able to be accommodated in that regard. Friends and family. I know you said you were working in the Friends and Family program, correct? Yeah. How many people are they allowed, each competitor allowed to bring? 2, correct. Now that doesn't mean they can't have a whole gaggle of people, of course, but the Invictus Games has acknowledged the importance of this support structure and mechanism for the competitors and is giving them the opportunity to have 2 people join them through their journey of these games. And I think that's pretty significant when you think about it. Yeah, that's awesome. We had some military personnel here, retired and active. I understand that once a person decides to join the military, it's not just them, it's their whole family. Is that correct? I see a shaking head. Yeah, it's everybody. And the family around you is really important. Would you concur with that and the support? Yeah. So it shows you the importance that these people play. And also, when you think about it from the support family's perspective or friends, it's challenging for them too, right? So let's make sure that we thank them too for what they've been doing and the support they've been providing, because they're really critical and crucial to this process too. Cheers for everyone. Everybody, exactly. Again, I hear that the audience and the spectators are phenomenal, and they're cheering regardless of nations. Now, we might have a teeny little tweak towards Canada, but we cheer for everybody, right? First time I heard that, I thought, wow, that is really powerful. It shows you the importance of the power of sport and how we want all of them to succeed, right? The other thing, too, is when they're awarded their medals, do we play the national anthem of that country? Does anybody know? No. What do we play? Anybody know? The Invictus anthem. That's right. So it's not necessarily who the nation is, it's the anthem. And the anthem actually is the words of the poem, and it was composed, the music was composed by Chris Martin of Coldplay. So it's pretty powerful. I've had the opportunity to hear it. It's a really great song. And a volunteer-led medal. Who is a volunteer in this room? Come on, yellow people. I know there's yellow people out there. Volunteers, yeah. We have a lot of volunteers here. This is a volunteer-led model. There's very few actual paid staff as part of this process. These games would not happen without you and myself and the other volunteers in this room. It makes the difference. It's a volunteer thing. We know that your time is important to you. The gift you're giving us is your time, and that's the gift we're giving the competitors and their families. So thank you very much for your willingness to do that. Give yourself a pat on the back. Thank you, yes. So that's what makes these games really different. You can make a difference by thanking the competitors for their service, by expressing gratitude to their friends and family, by making every interaction meaningful and positive. Now, it doesn't mean that you sit back and wait for them to come to you, right? You go to them. Be the first one to initiate the action. Okay, promoting the Invictus Games within your community. 1, we have an opportunity to educate, and 2, we have an opportunity to encourage them to support our competitors and our military families. Welcoming everyone in an open and inclusive manner, we kind of already talked about that, and continuing to support our military friends and family after the games. Once the games are done, it doesn't mean that it's over, right? There's lots of different kinds of things that we could do to continue to show support. So just consider that. Have some fun. I mean, these games are supposed to be fun, and if we're having fun, what's going to happen? They're going to have fun too, because it's going to translate, right? You know, when you see somebody that's bubbly and happy and excited, how do you generally feel? Right, bubbly, happy, and excited, right? So we can really make a difference in these games, and we want you to have fun. Okay, just a couple of minor things. 1, do's and don'ts of accreditation. You all have your accreditation now. Do, wear it at every shift, so make sure you put it in a safe place and make sure you come to your venue with it on. 2, hang your accreditation around your neck so that it proudly shows who you are, right, and that you should be there. You can see in some cases there's coding and things on the bottom. It indicates where you should be and where access you're granted. Don't. We know people have already taken pictures with the Vimy today, yes? Okay, just a reminder. Do not post pictures of your accreditation online. So if you happen to have a picture with Vimy this morning or a picture with a friend and your accreditation was showing like that, please don't post it on social media. The reason is that it could potentially pose a security risk, right? And the last thing we want is somebody kind of creating some counterfeit type of accreditation and people going on site that shouldn't, all right? We know you're proud of your Vimy photos, and so you should be, but either crop it so you can't see it or don't post it online, okay? And hence the reason why, if you've noticed, Christine and I have had ours backwards for this whole show, okay? So just be cognizant of that. One is, don't wear it until games time, until your shift. Don't use your accreditation when you're off duty. We know you're probably anxious to see the games and stuff, but unfortunately it isn't a free ticket. We still need to support our competitors by purchasing the tickets if we want to see events, right? Don't loan your accreditation to anybody. If you happen to have a twin that looks exactly like you, please don't loan that accreditation to that individual. And also don't use your accreditation as the free ticket, which I mentioned a minute ago. Do those seem reasonable? Yeah, they're pretty easy to follow by, okay? All right, now, your uniform. You excited to get your uniform? Okay, you're getting that uniform package really soon. You'll get to look bright and yellow like the rest of us. Please do not wear your uniform until your first scheduled date. Now, I know you're probably really proud of your uniforms, so if you want to go home and put it on and model it for the family, right, and throw your accreditation on and show them in the house, I'm sure that's okay. But we're just asking you is not to go outside wearing it in public until your first shift. You're responsible for a uniform. There'll be no replacement of lost or stolen items. Unfortunately, we have very limited supplies available. And after you've completed all your shifts, your uniform and your accreditation is yours to keep at the end. So that's kind of a fun thing to have as a memento, for sure, along with whatever other Invictus items you may purchase. Sound good? Yeah? Okay, perfect. And more information is available in your what? Handy dandy pocket games time pocket guide. Yeah, and that guide, I strongly encourage you to go through it. There is lots of really great information in that guide. Anything you could possibly need for the games is there, and it's really concise.
Imagine what it's going to be like when we all work to deliver these games. We have, as one team, an opportunity to make a lasting impact on the lives of thousands of competitors and friends and family who will be in Toronto this year, and many, many more who will be watching these games. We have, as one team, an opportunity to inspire a nation in a way it is rarely ever done. And we have, as one team, an opportunity to deliver the best games ever. Are you with me? Are you with me? The only thing I would say, just to finish things off, because we're all about safety and insurance around here, is, you're welcome, is fasten your seatbelts, because it's going to be one hell of a ride. Thank you so much. There you go.
Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole.
I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul.
In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud.
Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but I'm bowed.
Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade.
And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid.
It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.